someone sort of posted a joke on Twitter that was essentially like the paranoia that people have about Antifa coming to destroy their homes, but yet like they live in like a trailer that's run down and no one would want to steal from their home. And it got a lot of traction and I saw it and it just rubbed me the wrong way because it seemed less like a critique on this person's like racism, like
hypothetical person too, not even a real person.
Yeah, because basically the image was some like rundown trailer with a Confederate flag attached to it, and it kind of rubbed me the wrong way that the focus of this person's ridicule was going towards the fact that this person was living in poverty and not towards the fact that they had a rebel flag hanging outside of their home. Because like, I mean, as someone who grew up like poor and being bullied for those exact same things, it kind of, well, like it stings to see stuff like that because it brings up a whole lot of shit that only people who grew up in that kind of environment would understand. Like growing up, like being bullied for not living in a nice house, for not wearing nice clothes. And my point was essentially that when liberals are talking about racist working class people, a lot of the time
punching down at their poverty.
Yeah,
they're happy to shit on them for being poor.
It's essentially basically, it's roasting them for looking poor and not having money. And like in my head, that wasn't a controversial take because I'm a leftist and like I care about like my where my heart is that I don't want anyone to live in that kind of poverty. And that doesn't mean that I think that being poor is an excuse to be racist. I don't think that working class people get a pass for being racist, and that was never my point. But of course that was what some people took from it, was this idea that I was basically trying to say that like, because when I expanded on my point, what I said was that it's more worthwhile to be looking at racist elites who actually have some modicum of power as opposed to some random guy who lives in Appalachia in a trailer who is probably like powerless. I mean, is powerless. Let's
and you just
say,
found
like,
a picture of a bad house with a rebel flag to shit on.
But then again, it's like, I feel like if I had tweeted the same tweet, people would have come after me much harder than they come after you.
Oh, absolutely.
I've noticed
you're black.
I've noticed this though, because I will tweet something that's like mildly innocuous. Like I don't even go as hard as like you guys go when it comes to these sorts of critiques most of the time, but people just seem to be willing to find like the worst interpretations. And not just that, they go as far as to like basically start whisper campaigns. They call me like a Nazi or a Nazbol or whatever the fuck. Which
is just like the idea that there's a large contingent of people who are Nazbols or Strasserites or anything like that in 2020 is fucking ridiculous.
It's demoralizing though, because it's like, it's number one, it's like I can't make the critique, and like I get very little sort of defense from the wider sort of broad left community when I'm attacked by these people for trying to censor class or to sort of push forward a class-based analysis, or by saying, hey, there might be a class dimension to this issue that we're talking about. And yeah, it's demoralizing, it's frustrating, because like I don't even like, there's nothing that I've said that like a Michael Brooks hasn't said, or a Chapo Trap House hasn't said, or that any of the, that a Douglas Lane hasn't
to
said.
To be fair, Chapo never claimed they were going to come if Trump wins.
Well, they've said
I'm just
edgier,
fucking with you. I'm just fucking
they've
with
said
you.
edgier shit than that.
No, I think it's like 100% right what Angie is saying, that like there are so many people on the left, particularly men, who can, like, you would not believe it. Like, I mean, when you look at the Chapo guys, like, there's a lot of stuff that they joke about. Like, they joke about, like, kind of ironic misogyny, and, like, they're very tongue-in-cheek about all of these serious issues without really getting much flack from people. And yet, like, Angie can't even make like the vaguest, like the most like vaguely controversial thing on Twitter. Like not even controversial, like just something.
She'll agree with me and they'll attack her rather than me.
Yeah, and it's just
demoralizing, to be honest, because it's like I don't know, it makes me feel like fuck it, I might as well just like not engage in the conversation if I'm gonna like get the brunt of it like 90% of the time, like especially the thing where people feel like they can punish me because they don't like Peter, or if they don't like something Peter says,
which is fucking like insane. It's so fucking insane people do that. I'm really the bad guy, and because you are okay with me, and we're like we correspond with each other, we do a podcast together, because you are ancillary to me in some way. You are actually worse because you enable me, I guess.
The stranger thing is that people seem to view me as like completely separate from it, which I'm not entirely sure why, because I am involved in the podcast. I'm friends with all of you, and I agree with your takes, but yeah, like I don't know, it's strange. And like for me personally, the controversy over the rebel flag thing didn't bother me whatsoever, because I don't read what people respond to it, because when I put out my opinion like that, it's just me putting out my opinion. I'm not opening up a discussion or a debate. That's just me saying my opinion, and I don't read what people have to say. Like people will come to me and be like, oh, someone said this and this, but I don't go down the rabbit hole of like looking through what all people are saying, because the fact is that once you get over 10k on Twitter, there's gonna be people who are like weirdly obsessed with taking you down. And
I also think it's because I'm a minority, because they're like, oh, you're they're like, you're insulating the bad thing, like your identity basically, it's insulating the bad thing, and you're this like horrible thing that's in the way of us criticizing the bad thing, because we can't.
You're giving an excuse to it.
Yeah, it's like it's weird, and yeah, like I said, it's like pretty demoralizing, which is the reason why I've just been like bleh for the whole week, because it's like, I can't say what's on my mind, or try to sort of give a class-centered analysis in the same way that I see other white creators and pundits can, without getting completely like shot to shit over it. And yeah, it's
a thing people could do is to simply like show some degree of support when you do it.
It would be nice. It would be nice
because there's enough people out there who agree with you. Like there are plenty of people who agree with you.
I felt like maybe it's like a silent majority thing, because like, that's kind of how I've been viewing it so far, is it's like a silent majority thing, and like this stupid vocal minority.
The people who are our patrons are obviously coming from somewhere. they're not like a huge like vocal defense of low society on Twitter or anything, but like those people are coming from somewhere.
I think it's like a silent majority thing, which is the way I've been trying to look at it, so that I don't feel completely demoralized. And I think that silent majority thing really bleeds over into a lot of different areas of politics as well. Like there's a vocal minority that basically thinks that they own the turf and they are the ones who are in charge of everything because they're super loud. But then you see the opposite of what they want to happen usually is the thing that ends up happening politically, because the majority of people are kind of like, that's bullshit. Or,
yeah, I don't know that I really like the way that they're acting or what they're saying.
Yeah, most people aren't like unhinged like that. So that's kind of what I kind of have to keep reminding myself.
It just seems like when they get it in their head that you are like cancelled or you're done, it's like a dog with a bone. Like they don't want to let it go. They don't
want to see you. And if you bring someone who's been cancelled up, then you're the fucking evil person for reminding me of the thing that I didn't want to see. Like
people on Twitter get into this mode where it's like, if I don't agree with everything you tweet, then you're worthless.
Well, it's that perfect representation.
It's the same. I get that.
Yeah, and it's like, I'm a human being.
I get that like so much, especially because my politics have sort of evolved in a more Marxist direction. People are like, I'm betrayed by you, Angie. You used to be cool. You used to be one of the good ones, and now you're a bad one. It's like this thing where you can never evolve or change your mind about a position. And also, like, if it's not a thing where people are like, I can just sort of agree to disagree with you on this thing. It's like, you don't represent me anymore, therefore you need to be punished, which is like really psychotic.
The reason why like people are confused by that is because you, a communist, a Marxist, don't have the same opinions as their radlib faves.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
basically it.
Exactly.
And they think that the radlib faves are communists.
Yeah,
they do.
exactly. They think the radlibs are leftists.
Yeah, and it's annoying too, because like it's the same thing now. In is to update our audience. Destiny has now been the person that MythCon has chosen to face off of Milo Yiannopoulos. So you got your fucking way. You're gonna get
good job.
Good job, well done. You're gonna get your like dunk fest that's gonna accomplish absolutely nothing. Like
exactly.
Well, yeah, everybody's
Actually-
going to walk out with the same opinion
Yeah.
as they had before. That's how it's going to work.
That is literally a take I saw on Twitter that I responded to, was that someone was saying that, well, Destiny's gonna perform better than Peter. And I was like, but Destiny's not a fucking Marxist communist person. He's a liberal. Like it's like
Yeah,
comparing it's comparing apples to oranges. It's like saying it's like if a liberal was planning to debate a Republican and they sent a Republican to go debate instead, and you're like, well, he's gonna do better. It's like, but it's not the same thing. It's not even.
You don't want them to do better.
Yeah, exactly. Like Peter was going with the intention to present a viewpoint, and Destiny is not going to be doing that. Destiny is going to be like basically
Just attacking Milo.
yeah,
Are you guys saying that there's a liberal consensus? Oh, of course there's a fucking
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's a fucking liberal consensus. And that's the thing, is when you're fighting against liberal consensus, you're fighting against something that's hegemonic. And I guess if you're somebody who is a minority doing it, you're gonna be hit worse in that regard.
Can you imagine if you had actually been able to step in as tribute?
They would have
Can
fucking
you
killed.
imagine?
Yeah, if I had decided I was gonna Katniss Everdeen in this situation, they would have fucking lost their shit, and they would have, it is frustrating and it's somewhat demoralizing that I can't.
And again, you would have gone and presented a leftist viewpoint, whether or
Yeah.
not you dunked on him all fucking
Yeah.
time. That's the fucking point of doing this kind of shit. It's getting the leftist words in front of people who haven't heard them.
Yeah, it's not just because I'm a minority though, it's also because I have less social capital, and
Yes.
these liberals see like numbers as everything. Basically.
Oh, yeah.
So they're like, if you have more numbers, that means I'm not going to fuck with you as much. But if you have less numbers, then you're like a prime target, basically. Even though people
You can't hurt me. You don't
just
have
'cause
the numbers.
Yeah, just because you have numbers doesn't mean that you have power. But they kind of see it that way. It's sort of codified in their minds that way. But I'm going to continue doing what the fuck I do anyway, and it's going to continue to piss people off. And that's just kind of the cross I decided to carry when I decided that I was going to be a proponent of material analysis in that regard.